think. Just, I don't know that there's a whole lot of conversation needed on this one, to be honest. But first piece of information, I am not Debbie Miller. I am Rebecca Olson. We just have one login, so that's why it says Debbie's name. So somebody asked me, is that really you running the webinar? I said, yeah, it's me. We just use Debbie's name. She's Tim Olson's executive assistant, so she's got the key to the world. Anyway, we've got an agenda here for reporting. I did have somebody ask me about ACA, and I will go over that just closer to open enrollment. And then if there's any questions on anything in the meantime, you guys do not have to wait for the webinar. You can just ask me directly. That's not a problem. That's never a problem. So we'll just go over the reporting, general reports. That'll be real quick. Change history reports, enrollment status reports, row and column based reports. And then I think we might get through that pretty quickly because you guys have mostly all been on the system for a while. So if we do and we're all comfortable, there's no questions outstanding, I'll go ahead and move into what I had planned for the next session, which is a deeper dive, a little more deep reporting, but we can always adjust. So if we have time, we'll just move into these more advanced pieces of the reporting package. So let me get into Navigator. And we are talking about the reports tab here today, pretty much exclusively. We'll look at a couple of little things elsewhere, but mostly this. So the first reports I want to point out, these are just your general reports. And that can mean a lot of things, but I think of them as simple reports, quick glance reports. They're real straightforward, but not super detailed. So for example, your new hire, what do you want to see? I want to see everybody hired after a certain date. So let's just say April 1. You generate it, that gives you who was hired. It doesn't give you much else at all. So frankly, I don't use these reports a ton, but they could be helpful in a lot of ways for you guys. So they don't help me a ton because I'm always dealing with the details. But if you just want to get a quick glance of who's got what and where what is, this is a good place to go. So for if you're entering certifications and licenses, this isn't going to have it probably because it's a demo group and I haven't gone that far. But if you enter that information, you can pull it up quickly right here if you want to include termed employees there. We had somebody have this license, but they have now been terminated. So again, this is a very quick just glance at these general reports. I do want to point out this I-9. So a couple of you have been through it with me where I said, yeah, you can add I-9 to your onboarding. And you can, but it's not legally compliant. So you still have to print it out. You still have to get that wet signature. But this will keep, if you want to use it, it will keep the information for you. It will tell you they said they're a citizen. It will tell you what documents they supplied. You know, if you enter the issuing authority, document number, etc. So you can use it. It's not a bad thing, but it isn't quite as robust as we were hoping. As I understand it from Employee Navigator, they are working with the government to try to make it compliant, try to find a way that it can be compliant. I wouldn't, frankly, hold my breath on that one, but they're trying. So then, if there aren't any questions about that, I'll just move along. They're super simple. That's all you're ever going to get. You can get your beneficiaries there, which is nice. So the next little bucket, as I like to call them, is the change history reports. This one I would recommend familiarizing yourself with. These two little bits I have noticed that we aren't using correctly, and I mean we as in the Olson Group combined with the groups. So some of these can be used for some of those plans where you guys have grandfathered employees in, they get a certain rate or a certain benefit amount. We haven't been using those. So I want to point them out that they're there, and we might want to, at some point, have a conversation about using those more effectively. Demographic changes, again, just a quick, you can see, and I know for a fact there's nothing in here, so I'm not going to show it to you, but you can see who changed their name, when, those kinds of things. Remember in the employee management webinar, going back to the change history, that's pretty much what you're going to see in that, is the demographic changes. You're pretty much going to see that change history. Voluntary life events, frankly, I've not used. Payroll deductions changes, I have used. It will show you, especially if you're self-bill and you're trying to report correctly, it will show you, and I'm not going super deep into these right now, but this will show you what was and then what is as far as payroll deductions. So if you're talking about someone who had a QLE in the middle of the month and you're self-bill and you want to know what to charge for them, this is a good report for that. The two I really want to pay attention to in this list are the event reports and the enrollment changes reports. I think these two can be helpful and are probably underutilized. The event report is just exactly that. You can include all events. It's going to get pretty big if you do, but you can also pare it down to whatever you want to see. I'm just going to show you all events because this is not a heavily used group as of yet. So I can't imagine there's a ton, but I'm going to just run it. Oh, I have to select one. Just kidding. Didn't I say all events? Oh, I have to actually select all. Cool. Run it. And then you're literally going to see everything somebody did. So today, this morning, I'm messing around. I completed a new hire. I did something he needed to do in his new hire or in his workflow. I can look at details of these and see exactly what it is that I did. So these reports are good for so-and-so is doing, you know, what are they doing? What happened in this period of time? I want to know everything that's gone down at my group since May 1. I only want to know about employees hired, terminated, did they go on leave? This is, you know, largely going to be most useful for, I think, larger groups. Somebody added a dependent. I want to know about that. We approved a profile change. I want to know about that. And so you pick those, and then you can really, there's no changes to display, but you can really dig in deeper into what's gone on, who's done what. Those things I think can be very helpful, maybe particularly during an enrollment season, like our God so quickly upcoming Q4, am I right? And then this one, the enrollment changes, this is what I use when I'm auditing. So mostly for enrollments, I use the wall, which we've gone over, but when I'm auditing something, like for example, with this enrollments team that we have parted ways with, I then went through every group back to 4-1 and made sure that all events and all QLEs were processed back to April 1 for each group, because I wasn't so sure that those had gotten taken by the former enrollments team. So I did this. I literally did everything, and I just went back to 4-1 and I hit generate. And that shows me all of the enrollments that have occurred since April 1st. And it shows me what they should be and where they should have gone. So it gives me the carrier, it gives me the benefit, or the plan, I should say, the start date, all of the things I would need if I'm checking to see that everything's good to go at the carrier level. And then if something wasn't processed, then I can just go back into their profile, their wall feed, whatever it is, and get the details. So this can be a really helpful tool to use as well. And all of these, as I'm getting out of it, but I should show you, all of these are, you can put, why did I do that again? Oh, that's why. Excuse me. All of these can be printed, Excel, CSV. I Excel them all the time, every time, in fact. Now, the next bucket is a bucket that I love for my new hires, my newly eligibles, and during open enrollment, and that is these enrollment status reports. This will give you, within your group and your group's information, obviously, the new hires, the newly eligibles, and the open enrollments. It gives you who can't start, who has not started, who's in process, and who is completed. So let's just look at one of them. You click the whole thing and it'll give you all of it. If I want to include termed employees, I don't know why I would, but if I wanted to, you just click that. So I have 0 who can't start. Usually if they can't start, that's the same issue as if they don't have that start enrollments button on their home page. So that means something with their profile is incomplete, and it's not allowing them to have that window. So that's what those usually mean. Not started, obviously, is those who have not begun. So this can be really helpful in that auditing of making sure that new hires go through the whole flow, making sure newly eligible goes through the whole flow. If they haven't started at all, they're sitting right here. And you can see when were they hired, what's their eligibility date or their earliest eligibility date, which is smart because there's obviously differing eligibilities in a lot of cases. You can view those details as far as the eligibility is concerned. This is that eligibility page within their profile. It's just giving you access to it right there, which is, I think, really great. And then, sorry, I just lost track of my thoughts. This then allows you to see who hasn't started. You can then, go to their manage page, look at where they're at, see why maybe they haven't started, see if there's something missing, whatever's going on. And then you've got your employee in process. So this will tell you Ella Fitzgerald has begun her new hire, in this case, enrollment, but she hasn't finished it. So you can go into manage and that takes you right to her homepage. Going back is a little more complicated sometimes, but that is that. And then there's nobody who's completed. So we haven't had that many new hires finish. So this group is in trouble with me. Just teasing, nobody gets in trouble. And then you've got the newly eligible, that's exactly the same thing. There are none in this case. And then there won't be any because we haven't opened it, but you've got your open enrollment. Oh, apparently I'm wrong. I did open it. So there's 4 people who can't start, 36 who are not started. So why can't they start? Let's see. You can't really tell from right here. Chances are department, division, office, something like that is required, but you can still, again, go to manage. It'll tell you exactly what you're missing. In this case, it's an address, city, zip. It's not going to let you start any enrollment if you don't have that information. So if somebody has gone from ineligible to eligible, but you never added their address or they never added their address, it's not going to let them start. So are there any questions on anything there so far? We're moving into the big guns. Our big guys are our row and column-based reports. I'm going to go to the column first because I use it the least, to be honest. I use the row-based almost exclusively. The column, though, can be very helpful in certain situations. Typically not so much for me, but maybe for you guys. So I'm just going to go with first and last name. Most of the time I choose social, but we'll just make it easy. It kind of depends on what you're looking to do. Column and row-based are so huge. You guys, they're so huge. They can bring in any information. The downside to them, I've found, is that if you don't pick very carefully, you may not get exactly the information that you want. So if there's ever a time where you're finding information, a report is telling you something that you're like, what? Just reach out to me. Chances are, I don't know either, but I'll find out. I mean, this thing is just so big that sometimes it's almost too big, to be completely honest. But the big difference, and you'll notice this when you go into the enrollment side in the reporting, you've always got this drop-down menu. Whatever you choose here does not go away when you go here. It stays. So let's pretend we're talking about our medical plan and we want to see the coverage, the start date. We probably just want to see all of it. Start reason, plan end date, end reason, etc. I don't need to read these to you guys. You can read. But I do love that there's an option between monthly cost and per pay cost. And I'll often choose both. And then you can see when they were enrolled, when it ended, and who last updated it if you want to. You can include dependents. In most of these column or row-based reports, I exclude declined and not enrolled, but I leave ended enrollments. And the reason for that is because if someone terminated and we still are kind of trying to figure something out, it just depends on what information you're looking for, to be honest. But I typically leave ended enrollments because maybe they just ended 5/31. If they just ended 5/31 and I leave this out, I don't see it. So I always leave that one. Most of the time I'm dealing with current enrollments. The only time you're ever going to choose open enrollment is if you're actually in the open enrollment time period and it has not closed. Because if you think about it, once open enrollment closes, it becomes the current enrollment. So 99% of the time you're just picking current. You can mess with these dates. I have found it less than easy to get the right dates when it comes to put in the system between. What does that mean? I don't know what that means, to be honest with you. So you can use them, try to mess with them. I've gotten results from it, but frankly, I've mostly found it complicating. So this is the results you get. It tells you everything you wanted to know. So Christina Aguilera here, you can tell that she started on December 1st. It was due to modify enrollment. So in this case, so you might be looking for why is something wrong? Well, then you can tell here that someone went in and actually modified enrollment, which means they went into that modified current and took it all the way back to the start date. Well, maybe that wasn't the right thing to do. So you can catch things that are at issue in these. I can't really tell you much more about the column-based report, mostly because I don't use them very often. So anytime you're trying to use this, like I said, it may be very useful for you guys. It's just not too typically useful for me. So, but I can certainly get to know them better and help walk you through them if there is need for that. The other thing I want to point out, and this is general to reports, you'll notice up here, I'm gonna move my face, you've got your back to reports menu. This will start you all over. If you're ready to run a whole new report, you don't like this one, you can go back to reports menu, but it's gonna start you all over. All of your elections, all those things you hit are gone. If you wanna adjust what you've already done, you wanna go to fields. And then everything you picked is still there, but say now, okay, now I wanna include dental. So blah, 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 blah. Then you can view it again, and it will include those dental enrollments when it decides to load. I love waiting for it. It's my favorite. There we go. So that gives you then, let's see, where did it go? I will have added them if I have any. Point being, it's there. Apparently I don't have any dental enrollments, but it would be there if I did. You can download these. They just, from here, they just do that auto save thing where it comes down here. Loading. I don't know why my internet is slow. There we go. And then you can just Excel that out, save it, do whatever you want with it. Then, so that you know as well, these are savable. They're saved. You can save column-based report. You don't really need anything there unless you want something there. So you can save it. From there, you've saved it. You can go back and change your fields if you want. So I'm going to say I'm done with this one. I'm going to go back to my reports menu. It's going to clear me out. Now I'm going to look at my reports. This is where anything you save is going to go. So now I have my column-based report test. I can go back into it. I can just view it as is, or I can make adjustments to it, however you want. So when you save, you can also save as new. So do another one, test, let's pretend for OE, save as new. Oh, nope, just kidding, this gives you another thing. So I'm gonna test save over that. So if you wanna save it as new, it asks you for another name. So I saved over it instead of saving a new one. So a new one, I've never done this, as you can tell. I've never needed to. I don't have a lot. But then when you go back to your reports, you will have both. So I only have these two reports that I keep, but somebody shared this one with me. Know that you can share your reports within your organization. I have access to all of your reports, so everything you've created and saved, I can see them. I can't alter them for you, but I can see them. So again, if there's ever any issue or report that isn't working quite the way you want it to, just let me know. I can delete these. And you can do this too to your own reports. And then these I have over here that I can see that you guys have made. You don't have those, but I can see all your reports and I can help you with them if you would like. So now to the row-based report. The row-based report, I'm sure you've all heard me say, is my very, very favorite report. It's very similar to the column-based, but it does just have a different look and output and election process on the enrollment side. So I'll walk through this. This one to me is the most useful on sort of a day-to-day basis as far as finding what you want for plan information. So I'm gonna go through this as I would for, let's say, I don't have a lot of elections here, so let me, hold on a second. I'm gonna open up in a tab real quick. Just take a quick glance at my benefits and who I have the most enrollments in. I just wanna be able to have some results. All right, so let's look at accident. And we're gonna look at just who's enrolled, what their premiums are, what their deductions might be, et cetera. Not deductions, that's payroll, but premiums. I'm gonna choose employment status most of the time if I'm wanting to only look at active employees. Remember, when you choose something over here, or I should say when you pick something with this little filter, it pops to over here and you have to make an election if you want to specify it. If you don't choose anything, it shows you everything. So if I didn't hit active, it would show me both. So I only want to see active in this case. So I'm going to click active. You can pare it down by office, department, division, business unit, whatever it is that you use in your group as well. You can look at, you know, obviously I just said only active people, so I don't need termination dates, but these things are super robust, whatever information you want. Say I'm sending a file to a carrier and they want all of this information as well. No problem. Are they a tobacco user? Maybe. And then you can put compensation. So if this was short term, you can do any of those things. So that's pretty huge. It's bigger than the options in the column based. And then enrollments. Again, when you make the switch, it doesn't take away anything you picked over here. Moves right over. And then I always pick, and I know this seems redundant, but I always pick both plan and benefit. I have found that you just get just that much more specific results when you pick both. I don't think it's impossible to function without picking both. I've just found that it's a little bit better. And again, here you can get your monthly cost versus your per pay cost, your benefit amount, whatever. And this is, of course, employee versus employer cost. You can just look at the monthly cost without splitting it. You can do all three. You can show when they were eligible, when they actually enrolled, any of these things. You can also simply pick all of it. And a lot of times it'll do that. So again, I like to include dependents in any case, unless there's just no dependents on the plan ever, excuse me, and declined and not enrolled. Now again here, for whatever reason, on this row-based report, it tends to be a little bit easier, but because there's this put in the system between, which again, I've never found it to work very well, but covered between can be very helpful. If you want to know who came on, who's covered between January 1 and right now, you just put in those dates. And then again here, we picked a couple of different things, but we never made elections. So we picked a state. Well, I want to see every state, because what if they're up in northwestern Nebraska and they're close to South Dakota or Wyoming or one of those states, and they live over there. Well, so I'm going to leave it as all states. The coverage level, I always leave as all. It's a lot of different coverage levels because different plans can be, some will be employee plus spouse, some will say employee plus one. Typically the employee plus one is going to be like a vision plan, but it'll sometimes be marked that way. So I just leave it and I pick all of them. If it's not there, it's not going to show it to you. So doesn't hurt anything. I didn't think it's because I picked everything. I didn't pick carrier, but that's fine. So again, it'll just show all carrier. So my plan and my benefit, I'm going to look at, what did I say? I want to look at accident. So I'm going to go to accident 2019. it's going to give you all of the accidents. So you can report on old plans. And I'm going to go in here and just hit accident. And again, I know it's redundant, but just, take my word for it, or don't. Either way, you're going to get a report. So then I get this report. And really, this is just, an accident enrollment report. What are they enrolled in? It's accident 2019. What's their coverage level? Monthly cost. It really ought to be the same in this case, by coverage level. So you can see quickly, employees are 1588, employee spouse 2140, because we have it monthly instead of per pay. That's an easy thing. So all of these, and then my favorite thing, one of my favorite things, I should say, I have a lot of favorite things, is the start reason. It'll show you they elected as a new hire, they elected at this marriage QLE. So that's kind of why your enrolled on dates might look a little funky. As you guys know, sometimes when an employee runs a QLE, particularly, these eligible or these start dates can look a little funny when they pick a weird date. And then it'll show you who they were enrolled by, which I love. So again, with the row-based, it's so detailed and you can find so many things. You can get any benefit, any plan, any cost, and it just goes deep. I'll just scroll through this a little bit. You can see your benefit amount. You can see if you've got PCPs listed, who last updated what. You can see pending benefit amounts. I've noticed lately that EOIs and managing those have become a little bit of an issue, so I'm going to go over that as well real quick, just sort of as an aside, kind of a little extra. So anyway, that's the row-based report. If you guys have questions or you have a report that you want to run that you haven't really figured out how to get the information out of the system, just reach out. Again, always reach out and let me know how I can be supportive and helpful. I did notice today that a lot of you were saving your own reports, and I think that's awesome. So hopefully you're getting out of it what you want. So within, I do just want to point out one other quick thing. When you have these reports, I can assign users and I can share them. And you guys can do that too. Mine is obviously a little bit more, you shouldn't be looking over here, but you can assign it to people within your organization. So again, because I have that up, I'm not going to show you too long, but so do you guys feel good about what you've seen and feel like I can move on to these sort of deeper dive reports for the next 30 minutes, or do you want to push that to next time? I'm gonna take a quick little poll. Somebody answer me, please. Angie and Vic. Raise hand. How do I make it go? Hold on. I don't know how to do it. Where did it go? My chat disappeared. Sorry. I'm trying to figure it out. There it is. Okay. All right. Okay. I will go over these other 3 reports since we've got the time. I do want to point out, just on that voluntary life piece and those EOIs, I do want to point out the voluntary life and HSA reports really quick. These reports, and also the cafeteria, frankly, I have no idea why they have a retirement report. Maybe gives you a sense that they're trying to work on how to get retirement into the system. But these reports are specific to these benefits, so I recommend using them. So if you're looking for voluntary life information, this looks a lot like the row-based report, but it pulls from a different area, and you get closer information to what you're looking for as far as voluntary life is concerned. So when you go to this enrollment side, you'll notice this looks really different. So you get the employee approved cost or pending cost, approved benefit amount or pending benefit amount, et cetera, into the spouse and even the children. I do love that the children offers children pending employee coverage and children pending benefit amount, meaning this is a child who needs an EOI for themselves, This is a child who simply needs to have their parent be approved before their coverage is approved. So this just is more specific to voluntary life, and it gives you those people who are pending. It helps to avoid deducting for an employee who is pending a benefit amount, as does the payroll deductions report, which we will go through here in just a moment. HSA report, I don't think I need to go through, but it's the same story. It's just more specific to your HSA than anything else than a row-based report or a column-based report is going to be. They build those specifically on purpose because they have different ways of responding within the build of the system. So the payroll deductions report is a report that you want to use when you are, how do I say this? When you're reconciling your invoices versus what you're deducting for your employees, I think is the best way for me to say that. We do recommend that you reconcile your invoices, monthly, but at least a couple times a year, because the truth is Navigator is wonderful, TOGCC is wonderful, but if you've got an employee that puts something strange in, we don't notice it, you guys run something, you're moving fast, I just recommend always reconciling against it just to be sure that all of the information in here is as you want it to be. So the payroll deductions report, again, looks very much like a row-based report. You just select whatever it is that you want to see on the employee side. I'm just going to go with name right now to keep it simple. And then you also then just elect your benefit. In this case, I don't feel that you also need to elect plan if you notice the filter is gone. So most of the time I'm just going to be doing this. I don't know if you need payroll codes. I mean, the truth is I don't work on payroll, so I have no sense of how functional this is. Again, benefit, if you're choosing nothing, you're picking everything. So let's just look at medical, again, for the sake of simplicity, and then we'll leave all the coverage levels. So we're going to view it. This is going to show you there's no benefit amount because it's medical. The 4 people, their cost, and your cost. So when you're doing employee deductions, you're obviously going to go in that EE cost field. And again, you can download it here if you want to have that Excel'd out for you. Same thing here. If you go back here, you start over. So go to fields and you can adjust what you're looking at. Some dependent costs indicates they're going to roll in the dependent cost into the employee cost. So keep your eye on Aretha Franklin, 230.77. 230.77. So medical, it doesn't anyway. But I think in the case of voluntary life, short-term disability, let's look at it actually. I don't know if I have anybody in voluntary life on this. I do, perfect. So I think if I chose voluntary life instead, nope. Because nobody has deductions back that far. I think this means everybody might be terminated or something. Nobody's elected. Okay, neat. I don't know why. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that in some cases, some dependent costs is going to take the dependent cost and it's going to mush it into the employee cost. So if you're finding numbers that you're like, that's not right, and you think, ooh, dependents, if you push this in, then you'll get your total amount. So that's what that some dependent cost means. I frankly don't use it very often. Again, I don't run a lot of payroll. So with payroll questions, I'm probably not going to know a lot right off the top, but I will always, always, always find out for you. So any questions you have, anything that you are not able to figure out with the payroll deductions report, just let me know. I do want to point out that this report also exists within the payroll side. So the payroll tab, you can also get your payroll deductions report. I must have had them enrolled in the other little group I have built here. So the other piece that I wanted to look at is the self-bill summary report. This is obviously only helpful for those of you that are on self-bill. This is largely with, life, LTD, AD&D products that this is for, but the self-bill summary report, where did it go? Here it is. It's in these carrier reports. You can, so let's say it's Let's look at April 1, how much 1 minute. I hope there's some information. There we go. So what these will do, so say your self-bill on both your basic life, LTD, and your voluntary life. These will show you your rate, how many people are assigned to these individual buckets, then what the benefit amount is as a whole. This is not one individual, this is everybody, and then the premium. So I don't know if those of you who are not on self-bill have ever seen a self-bill, particularly on Unum. It's the one I'm familiar with, but it's just a box where it asks you for volume, premium, and number of lives covered. And then you hit enter and you're done. So if you're not on self-bill and you're interested, reach out to me. We can make that happen. It's one of those things where if you're making yourself crazy over invoices and wanting them to match and they're not matching, and you want one thing to be adjusted before you're willing to pay the bill, and all of those things happen, and it happens to a lot of groups. All of those things are solved by going self-bill, because you are telling the carrier, hey, I have this many people at this much volume for this much premium, and we're done. And what happens at the time of claim is that the carrier will come to you and they will say, okay, show me that you paid for him, and you have it in the system. Show me that you paid for, Joe Schmo back to 1/1/19 when he was supposed to be enrolled, and we can show that. That's provable. So I think self-bill is a great option, but that's an aside. It's really just an aside, a tangent upon which I decided to go. So that's your self-bill report. It's super simple. You can do it for any carrier, but if you're not self-bill, I'm not sure how helpful that is. And then the last one I wanted to walk through is the carrier, where did it go? Carrier bill reconciliation. It's called carrier bill reconciliation report here. That's what I was looking for. So you can, again, we'll just take Unum. We'll pretend we're not self-billed on Unum. Say, I love this too. Like, make sure you're paying attention to this. The billing due date is, well, we're so past that. Let's go past it. Is 7/1, but the billing date, the date they generated it, is today. And then that gives you the most up-to-date information. So you can see that this is what your bill should look like. And then because you're not self-bill, it's breaking it down. Each person is how much money for this bill. And here's your subtotal. And then you will have changes that are made, additions that are made, terminations that are made within that time frame listed right there for you. So then it's just to reconcile those things, whether it's on the adjustments on that invoice or if it's going to be on the adjustments on the next. And then you've got your LTD. It's just the volume because it's already told you all about all the people. So that's your carrier bill reconciliation report. And again, that's where I recommend, once a month or once every other month, just taking your invoice, comparing it against what is in Navigator. And then a lot of times, you guys, this is on timing. A lot of these things are timing, which is why I love this date thing. The billing date versus the due date versus what may have happened in that time on the system. Did somebody come in and run a QLE? Did somebody terminate? Did somebody have a change in benefit amount due to some other event, whatever it is? Then you can reconcile those right there. And then if there's anything outstanding, you can reach out to me and go, what the heck? What happened? Oh, there's your LTD people. There you go. So that's that's the carrier bill reconciliation. Any other questions there? We are just nailing through these. I love it. So the only other thing I wanted to point out, again, I kind of mentioned the EOIs. I think there was some confusion in the transition between myself and Linnea. I'm not running the EOIs for you guys. I think they might have been. To be frank, I was plainly enrollments, so I don't know. But I think they might have been. But I'm not doing that, and I will help you, don't get me wrong. But I'm not keeping my eye on everybody's EOIs. I frankly don't have the bandwidth. I'm a one-person team at this point. So I just want to make sure to point this out, that when you have insurability requests, pending amounts, number one, you don't want to ever deduct for a pending amount. So those reports in the reconciliation report and the voluntary life report, particularly since that's typically where you have the pending amount, are very helpful. But that can also be true for short-term, long-term, critical illness, those kinds of things. If you have, gosh, I can't think of words. If you have any of those benefits, those can also have pending amounts. So on your front page for your home page for your group, you have review insurability requests. So we don't have any outstanding here. I certainly, well, I just show you everything that was. This is things that have now been processed, but I can show you what was. So when you have someone apply for a benefit amount that requires EOI, the process that's gonna happen is that as they enroll, our system is gonna say, okay, you need to fill out an EOI, here's a link, or it's gonna take them to the carrier. Some of you have one, some of you have the other. And then it's gonna, they're gonna fill it out, they're gonna hand it in, you guys can hand them in through me. Most of everybody is on Unum. You can send them to Ask Unum. You can do any number of things. I'm happy to take them and, just forward them on to Unum for you. It's no problem. But so then this amount is going to be pending. So say somebody wants $200,000 and their guarantee issue is only $100,000. So they're pending $100,000 of coverage. So Employee Navigator is going to have that amount pending. It's going to allow for that $100,000 that's guarantee issue, and it's going to show you that that is in force, and then it's going to show the other amount pending. And it is going to give you an amount, a deduction that's pending, but never deduct on a pending amount. When you come in here and you should be getting communication from Unum or LFG or whatever your carrier is, when someone is either approved or declined, rejected or withdrawn their coverage, or if there is no response. So at those times, what you want to do is come in here. Right here, there's a link. And even when, you guys can't quite see these right now because I could show you a group, but that's not going to work. What are these status definitions? This has helped me. Honestly, I would screenshot this and keep it on my desktop. I did for the longest time. So approve means everything's approved, you're good to go. Declined means the amount of insurance above the GI was denied, but they still have the GI. Rejected means they don't have anything, no life insurance. And then withdrawn is in the case where somebody isn't replying, they're not getting their paramed, they're just not doing it. Well, that's to the carrier going to be a withdraw. So at some point you're going to want to withdraw this. Likely whenever you get communication from the carrier that says this request has been declined or has not been responded to and will now be closed. Know that when you get those, you still can keep it going. If you get an employee hasn't responded and you reach out to that employee and say, hey, the carrier's trying to reach out to you, they want this information, they want you to go paramed, are you just not wanting to do it, or are you not getting the info? If they say I'm just not getting the info, you can still send it in. It still has to go through underwriting, but you can still send it in and they'll reopen it. So know that it's important to come in here every time you get that communication and just either do one of these 4 things. And it will ask you for a date. Just give it the date that the communication by Unum or LFG or whomever it is that your carrier is, you can just give them that date. And again, if you have any trouble, please reach out to me, but know that I'm not going in to all of your requests and going through them from Unum I can certainly help by getting you a report from Unum, any of those numbers of things. I'm happy to help if you send me, hey, so-and-so got a declination, what's up with that? I'm happy to reach out to Unum, but just know that when it comes to this piece of the puzzle, I'm not coming in and changing these things. I'm expecting that you guys do that. So if you have questions or any issue with that, please reach out. We can discuss, you know, possibilities and ways we can manage that. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. I see some things in Q&A here. Hold on. All right, so I don't have any questions, I don't think, for the group. I'm going to reach out offline. But if there are any other questions, please, I'll take a couple minutes. Raise your hands, enter anything into the Q&A box or the chat box. And let me ask you this one. I've been sending out follow-ups after each webinar with a Survey Monkey. Is it not going through? Because nobody's answered it, and I'm hoping to get some feedback, but I'm also hoping that because you guys keep showing up, it means I'm doing something right. But I want to make sure that everybody's getting what they need, so I'm trying to do that Survey Monkey. I was kind of hoping more people would fill that out. But I'll send it out again. I'm just sending it as a link within the email that I'm sending as a follow-up. So if you happen to be able to try, I'll send it again today. If you see it, please do take, it's 3 questions. It will take you less than 2 minutes, if you wouldn't mind. So with that, if there are no other questions, I will end today's webinar, and thank you all so much for coming. I will follow up. It's not as easy to follow up on this one because it's reporting and it's so huge, but I will send a follow-up. But any questions, feel free to reach out to me individually, however you'd like, on whatever you'd like. And again, as a reminder, you guys don't have to wait for a webinar to get information from me. Just please feel free to reach out. And these webinars are all uploaded and will continue to be uploaded to YouTube. And I will send the link out today in my post-webinar communication. So thank you everyone for coming on. I'll let you get back to your days and let me know how I can help. Thanks so much.